The pounding started at 3 in the morning, hard, short, insistent. I watched the security feed. A woman collapsed at the villa door. White dress, blood on her arm. My daughter. I opened the door. She folded into me like a broken thing. Her knees hit the marble. Her breath came ragged and shallow. "He threw me out," she said. "He said she's moving in tonight." "Did he hit you?" I asked. She nodded. Once. Her face flinched as if the admission burned her. "He pushed me down the stairs," she whispered. "He laughed when I fell." I steadied her shoulders. "Name him." "Caleb," she breathed. "He said you wouldn't do anything. He said you're old." I carried her inside. The blood left small dark drops across the marble. I wrapped a blanket over her and pressed a towel to her lip. "Don't call the police," she said. "He'll destroy us." I didn't argue. I filed. I dialed Harold. "Hannah has been assaulted," I said. "Start the plan." He said, "Understood." I hung up and opened the drawer under the mirror. The badge was there, cold metal. The gun settled in my hand like an old truth. The recorder blinked red. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. The voice was smooth and small with a laugh. "Still awake, Sheriff?" he asked. "Caleb," I said. "She finally left," he said. "Took her suitcase. Good riddance." "Did you hit her?" I asked. He smirked through the line. "She fell. You know how clumsy she is." I tapped the record. "Say that again." He obliged. "Maybe she'll learn her place." "You confessed," I said, flat. He laughed, loud and certain. "You're retired, Helen. Who listens to ghosts?" I saved the file. Case Whitman 1. Hannah murmured in sleep that I would forgive him. Forgiveness is for mistakes, not choices. I documented everything. I photographed the bruise, timestamp, angle, close-up. I saved the image. I typed, "Medical report pending." Evidence starts at 3:18 a.m. A text arrived. "You should have taught her better. Screenshot saved." I called Captain Carter. "He's out there," I said. "On your perimeter," he answered. "We'll keep a distance." "Don't approach," I said. "Let him watch." I logged the call and added it to the folder. Whitman Case, Rock 03. I plugged the recorder into my laptop. I titled the file First Night Record. I labeled the folder in all caps. The active naming made it more real. At 3:25, I wrapped the bloody towel into a sealed plastic bag. Evidence Blood 03. I put it in the Navy folder. Clean, sealed, tagged. I changed into the old uniform. The jacket weight settled on my shoulders. The badge lay over my heart. I checked the gun twice. Click, click, secure. The SUV sat 2 houses down, headlights off, watching. Cowardice prefers darkness. I texted Vivian Clark's name into my notes. PR manager, Whitman Group. I circled it. Exhibit B. I called Mrs. Langford. She answered with a shaky voice and a clip from her door camera. "A man pushing a woman at the curb." I saved the clip. Chain of custody started at 3:28 a.m. Every upload was small violence against his lie. Every save was a promise. I poured dark coffee. No sugar, no mercy. Harold called. "I have the template ready," he said. "Forgery, assault, protective order. Draft everything," I said. "Keep it quiet until sunrise." He paused. "You realize you start a war." "It started when my daughter bled on my doorstep," I said. "I am only a response." He agreed. "Meet me at 8. Bring the folder." I sealed another photo. Exhibit A. I put the recorder in my pocket and turned the screen off. Hannah woke and whispered, "He said you'd forgive him." I knelt and looked at her bloodied face. "Forgiveness is for people who deserve it," I said. "This was a choice." She tried to smile and failed. I stood. I checked the cameras, all angles clear. I marked timestamps and compiled them into a single video file. I named it Evidence Master. I did not look outside for long. I had no need for theatrics. I needed facts. At 3:40 a.m., I sent one message to Caleb. "You will hear from me at daylight." No reply. Silence had the taste of fear. I packed the navy folder into the passenger seat and drove into the black. I went to the clinic at 5. Dr. Raymond Lee met us and took photographs. His hands were methodical. He labeled each file. I signed the medical report and added my name as witness. Back at the villa, I replayed the footage of Hannah collapsing. I slowed the frames and watched his hand close around her arm. I froze it and marked the exact second. I printed stills and labeled them Exhibit Still 1 through Exhibit Still 6. At dawn, I printed a cover page and wrote in black marker, Whitman Case, Assault, Exhibit A. I placed the stack in the navy folder and breathed. The binder felt like weight and like law. I called the bank and asked them to flag transfers. Forgery suspected, I said. Verify signatures. Within minutes, the bank replied with a scanned transfer. The signature did not match mine. Forgery 01. I saved that too. Harold emailed the draft emergency petition. I read it line by line. No pity, no mercy. Protective order. Asset freeze. Temporary custody. I signed where my name belonged. At 6:20 a.m., Judge Monroe signed the temporary order. Caleb was barred from the property and from contacting Hannah for 72 hours. It felt small. It felt huge. I sat in the car at the curb and watched the villa from a distance. Hannah slept inside. For the first time since the door banged, she breathed even. I spoke into the recorder one final line for the night. Clear, cold, final. He hit the wrong woman's daughter. He will answer to the right woman's law. Dawn didn't calm the house. It only showed the blood. I made coffee, no sugar, no noise, just focus. Hannah slept on the couch, face turned to the window. Her bruises looked darker in the light. I looked at her once, then picked up the phone. Dr. Lee, I said, I'm bringing her in. No police, just proof. He understood. Clinic's ready. I wrapped Hannah's shoulders in my coat and drove through the empty streets. She kept whispering, He said you'd do nothing. He said wrong, I answered. At the clinic, Dr. Lee didn't ask questions. He took photos, every bruise, every cut, every fingerprint. He said, These will hold in court. They'll hold him, I said. He handed me the medical file and a flash drive. All documented. I signed the witness line. Make a sealed copy, I said. One for the court, one for me. Hannah's voice cracked. Mom, I can't go through this again. You won't, I said. He will. When we left, the morning wind felt clean. I drove her home, helped her into bed, and watched the clock hit 8:03. Harold called. You ready for round 2? Send everything to Judge Monroe, I said. He hesitated. You sure you want public exposure? He'll fight back. He'll lose, I said. He always does when the evidence talks. I opened my laptop. Folder, Whitman Case 03. I added new files. Medicalreport.pdf. Photos Clinic Set 1. Audio Confession MP3. Forgery Doc JP. Witness Video Langford MP4. Each file clicked into place like ammunition. Then I heard tires on gravel. I checked the camera feed. His SUV. Back again. Same spot. Same arrogance. I zoomed in. He was smoking in the driver's seat, smirking at my camera like a game. I hit record. Another file saved. Harassment 8 a.m.MP4. He texted, Enjoy your victory, old woman. It won't last. I replied, It already did. I called Captain Carter. He's outside again, I said. We see him, Carter answered. You want him picked up? No, I said. Let him think he's in control. It makes the fall louder. At 9:10, Harold called again. Judge Monroe approved the protection order. 72 hours. Effective immediately. Good, I said. Freeze all joint accounts. Transfer villa back to my name. It's already in motion, he said. He forged 2 signatures. I smiled. That's perjury in writing. I printed the confirmation email and stapled it to the Navy folder. Cover sheet. Exhibit B. Financial fraud. Then I opened a new document and typed, Case summary. Evidence collected between 3:01 a.m. and 9:25 a.m. Under it, suspect, Caleb Whitman. Status, ongoing. Each word felt like a brick in the wall I was building around my daughter. I checked on Hannah again. She was asleep, finally breathing steady. I touched her hair once and said quietly, "You rest. I'll make the noise." By noon, the phone rang again. It was Carter. He left the SUV, headed downtown. "Where?" I asked. "Blue Coral Lounge, alone." I knew the place. I knew who waited there. "Vivian Clark," I said. Carter didn't reply. He didn't have to. I hung up and packed the camera, the recorder, and my badge. Then I looked in the mirror. Old eyes, sharp memory, no fear. "He wanted a fight," I said. "He gets a record." I put on my jacket and clipped the badge to my belt. Harold texted as I reached the door. "Be careful. He's reckless when cornered." I replied, "So am I." I stepped outside. The sky had gone gray. Seabrook's air was thick with salt and silence, the kind of silence that comes before justice hits. I started the engine. The recorder light blinked red. "Next stop," I said. "His favorite bar and his biggest mistake." I drove off, the villa shrinking in the mirror, the badge glinting once against the wheel. By the time I reached the lounge, the only sound in my head was my own voice saying one thing. He thought I was retired. He was wrong. By the time I reached Seabrook's west side, the Blue Coral Lounge was half empty. I parked across the street, camera on my lap, eyes on the entrance. At 12:07, he arrived. Caleb Whitman, my son-in-law. Suit pressed, ego intact. He wasn't alone. A woman followed him in. Younger, polished, red lipstick, same arrogance in a softer body. Vivian Clark, his mistress. I watched them through the tinted window. He placed his hand on her back. She smiled like she didn't know she was sitting next to a future defendant. I raised the camera. Click, click, click. Each flash meant one thing. Proof beats pride. I walked in and sat at the far end of the bar. The bartender recognized me. "Coffee?" "Black," I said, "and keep quiet." He nodded. Vivian leaned close to Caleb. He whispered something. She laughed, loud enough for me to hear. "She's probably crying by now," he said. Vivian smiled. "You really threw her out?" "Out and over," he said. "You should have seen her face." He laughed again. I hit record. His voice filled the phone. I turned just enough for the camera to catch his face. He noticed me. The smile dropped. "Mother-in-law?" he said, walking over. "Here to spy?" "No," I said. "Here to work." He grinned. "You're not a cop anymore. Retired, remember?" "Justice doesn't retire," I said. He tried to take my phone. I pulled back. "Careful," I said. "You're adding assault to the list." "List?" he sneered. "Yes," I said. "You'll see it in court." Vivian looked confused. "Caleb, what's happening?" He turned to her. "Nothing. She's bluffing." I smiled. "Really? Tell her about the forged signature, or the bruises, or the video from Mrs. Langford's door camera." He froze. Vivian stared at him. "What video?" He didn't answer. I held up my phone. The image of him shoving Hannah played in silence. Vivian's face turned white. She stood, stepped back. "You told me she was lying," she said. He hissed, "Sit down." She didn't. She grabbed her purse and walked out. I turned to him. "You just lost your witness," I said, "and your alibi." He glared at me. "You think anyone cares?" "Judge Monroe will," I said. "She signs my papers now." I walked away. Each step felt like a verdict. Behind me, his voice broke the room. "You'll regret this." I didn't turn. "You already do," I said. Outside, I called Harold. "He's done," I said. "Got him on video in his own voice." "Good," Harold said. "Judge Monroe's moving the case fast. I'll draft the subpoena." "Make it public," I said. "He wanted attention. Let him have it." I went straight to Mrs. Langford's house. She was waiting by the door. "Did he see me?" she asked. "No," I said. "But you'll see him on the news." She smiled nervously. "You really think it'll work?" "It already has," I said. "He recorded his own confession." I took her statement, added the camera footage, and drove home. By the time I got back, Hannah was awake, sitting up with a cup of tea. "Where did you go?" she asked. "To build your freedom," I said. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. "He'll fight back." "Then we'll fight better," I said. "I've been doing this longer than he's been lying." I sat down and opened my laptop. Folder: Whitman Case 03, new uploads, bar footage Caleb Vivian, MP4, audio.confession barred MP3, langfordwitness.pdf, signature forgery.jpg. The folder was a wall now, solid, unbreakable. I renamed it. Whitman Case complete. Harold called again. "He's already hired a lawyer," he said. "Let him," I replied. "They can share a cell after perjury." Hannah said quietly, "You're not scared, are you?" "No," I said. "He is." At 9 p.m., I sat by the window with my badge and a cup of cold coffee. Outside, headlights stopped by the gate. He got out of the car, shouting from the road, "You ruined me!" I opened the camera app and hit record. "You did that yourself!" He threw a rock. It hit the gate and fell. "Every sound you make is evidence," I said. "Keep talking." He yelled again, incoherent, angry, losing control. I smiled, calm. "That's Exhibit C. Verbal harassment." He drove off, tires screaming. I saved the video, labeled it Final Proof 10 p.m. Then I turned off the lights and locked the door. Hannah whispered from the couch, "Is it over?" "Not yet," I said. "But tomorrow, the world will know his name." I looked at the clock. 11:59. I pressed the record button one more time and spoke the truth. He thought silence meant safety. He's about to learn what silence sounds like in court. At 6 p.m., I put on my old uniform. Not because I had to, because I wanted him to see what authority looked like when it remembered his name. I drove to the Blue Coral Lounge again. Same place, same table. Only one difference. She was there alone. Vivian Clark, the mistress, the woman who thought she won. She looked up as I sat across from her. "You're her mother," she said. "I am," I answered. "And you're the reason she's in a hospital bed." Her hands trembled. "I didn't know." "You knew enough to lie for him." She looked down. "He said she was unstable. He said you hated him." "I do," I said, "but not as much as the truth does." I slid my phone across the table. Play. The screen lit up with his face. Him laughing, saying she fell, calling her crazy. Vivian's hand flew to her mouth. He said many things," I interrupted, "and you repeated them." Her eyes filled. "He told me he loved me." "Then consider this your receipt," I said. I pressed record on the table between us. "You're part of this now. Talk." She hesitated. "Vivian," I said calmly, "if you stay silent, you'll go down with him. But if you speak, you get a name on the right side of history." Her breath shook. "He forged documents," she whispered. "He said it was just to move money around. He made me notarize things under his name." "Which documents?" "The villa deed," she said. Exactly what I needed. I leaned back. "Good. Keep talking." She looked at me like she was confessing to God. "He told me he'd ruin your daughter's reputation before the hearing. Said he had friends at the paper." "Now he'll have friends at the courthouse instead," I said. She wiped her tears. "I didn't mean for this." "No one ever does," I said, "until it's too late." I stood up. "You'll testify tomorrow." Her eyes widened. "If I do, he'll destroy me." "He already did," I said. "Now you destroy him." Outside, the rain started. I called Harold. "She confessed. She'll testify." He exhaled. "Perfect. That's your witness." "Get her protection tonight," I said. "She's fragile, but valuable." "Already calling Carter," Harold replied. I hung up and watched the rain hit the windshield. Each drop felt like a countdown. At 7:12, my phone buzzed. Caleb again. "I know where you are." I texted back. "Good. Makes it easier to find you." Then headlights appeared behind me. Same SUV. I didn't move. I wanted him to look. I wanted him to see me still standing. He got out, drenched in rain, yelling, "You think you're clever? You're just a bitter old woman." I stepped closer. You're right. Bitter. Old. Dangerous. He spat. You can't touch me. Already did, I said, and held up the phone. His voice, his own confession, played back through the speaker. His face froze. From the first time he shut up, I looked him dead in the eyes. You hit my daughter. You lied to her face. You forged my name, and now your mistress is talking. He went pale. Vivian? She chose survival, I said. You chose ego. I turned and walked to my car. He grabbed my arm. I didn't flinch. Touch me again, and you'll wish you hadn't. He hesitated. I pulled free and whispered, The difference between us? I build cases. You build graves. I got in my car and drove off. Behind me, his scream mixed with thunder. Back home, Hannah was awake, sitting on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders. Where were you? She asked. At the bar, I said, collecting confessions. She looked afraid. He'll come for you. I smiled. Then he'll find a lawyer waiting. I opened my laptop. Folder. Whitman case, complete. New file. Vivian Clark, testimony, recorded MP4. I typed one line. Mistress flips. Case turns. Then I poured myself tea, cold and strong. And I looked at Hannah and said, You'll sleep tonight. He won't. Harold texted. Judge Monroe wants full evidence by morning. We move to trial. I replied, He's already on trial. Public opinion just hasn't caught up yet. The rain hit harder. The villa lights flickered once. I closed my eyes and whispered, Justice doesn't shout. It waits. I turned off the lights. The only glow left came from my screen. Evidence uploaded. Complete. He thought his mistress would hide him. She'll bury him instead. By morning, I was already at Harold's office. He didn't ask questions. He just pushed a stack of papers toward me. Everything you asked for, he said. Asset freeze, fraud charges, restraining order. I signed the first page without blinking. Make sure every signature hits before lunch, I said. Harold looked up. You really want to go public? Yes, I said. He used my name in the dark. I'll use his in daylight. He opened the folder marked Exhibit B. Inside, photos, bank transfers, Vivian's recorded statement. Perjury, forgery, assault, defamation, Harold said. That's 4 counts. You want the 5th? Yes, I said. Revenge. He smiled. You've always been efficient. I stood and looked out the window. Across the street, Caleb was pacing outside his lawyer's building. He looked smaller from here. Harold followed my gaze. He's desperate. He'll try to contact Hannah. Let him, I said. Every call becomes evidence. I walked to the door, but Harold stopped me. Helen, he said, you know this will get ugly. It's already ugly, I said. I'm just framing it correctly. I left the office with the folder in hand. The courthouse clock struck 9. The echo sounded like a countdown. Captain Carter was waiting by my car. His attorney's calling around. They're scared, he said. They should be, I replied. The last time I built a case, it ended in a prison sentence. I got in the car and checked my phone. Oh, that's new message from Caleb. Stop before you destroy everything. I typed back, too late. I already started with you. The rain came back, slow, heavy, predictable. By the time I reached home, Hannah was sitting at the kitchen table. Mom, she said, they called me from his office. They want to talk. Did you? No, she said. Good, I answered. They don't talk. They manipulate. I opened the Navy folder on the table and added the new court papers. Tomorrow morning, I said, his accounts will be frozen, his business license suspended, his car impounded. Hannah looked at me, wide-eyed. You really planned all this overnight? No, I said. I planned it the day he married you. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I poured coffee and sat down across from her. You see, I said, men like him think they're safe because women hesitate. I stopped hesitating 10 years ago. I took out my recorder and pressed play. Vivian's voice filled the room. He forged her name. He said he'd ruin them both. Hannah covered her mouth. "It's all real?" she whispered. "Every word," I said. I slid a page toward her. "Sign this. It's the witness statement." She looked at the line with shaking hands. "Does this make it official?" "This makes it irreversible." She signed. The pen scratched like thunder. At noon, Harold called. "Judge Monroe accepted the filing. He's officially under investigation." I smiled. "Then we moved to step 6. "What's step 6? "Public humiliation." I turned on the TV. Local news already running the story. Prominent businessman accused of forgery and domestic violence. His photo flashed across the screen. Smug, rich, caught. Hannah gasped. "Mom, it's everywhere." "Good," I said. "Let him drown in the truth." The phone rang again. Caleb this time. I let it ring. Then voicemail. "You can't do this to me, Helen." I pressed save. "Recorded," I said. "Thank you for Exhibit F." I sat back, folded my hands, and exhaled. Every click, every signature, every word was falling into place. Harold texted, "You're making history, you know that?" I replied, "No, I'm making consequences." The doorbell rang. I opened it. A courier handed me a letter. Inside, notice of immediate audit, Whitman Group Holdings. I smiled. The system was finally speaking my language. I placed the letter in the folder and closed it. The cover read, "Case file closed. Phase 1 complete." Hannah looked at me. "Is it over?" "No," I said. "Now comes the fun part." I stood, poured another cup of coffee, and stared at the rain outside. "He started this with arrogance," I said. "I'll end it with paperwork." The house was silent except for the hum of the printer spitting out another document. Page after page, proof after proof, his empire crumbling under the weight of my patience. I looked at the clock. 1:00 p.m. In 12 hours, everything he owned would have my signature on it again. Justice doesn't sleep. It signs in ink. By 6:47 a.m., I was already in my study. The printer hummed like a heartbeat. Every page that slid out was another nail in his empire. Bank reports, email threads, signatures that didn't match, and one that did, mine. Except I never signed it. I held the paper under the lamp. The forged signature looked perfect to the naked eye, but not to me. The curl of the H was wrong. The spacing, off. He had copied my hand, not my discipline. Harold arrived 20 minutes later, coffee in one hand, nerves in the other. "You're not going to like this," he said, dropping a folder on the table. "I rarely do," I said. "Show me." He opened it to a scanned document. Villa ownership transfer. "Filed 2 weeks before the assault," he said. "According to this, you gave your daughter's husband half the estate." I stared at the signature. "According to this, I lost my mind." Harold nodded grimly. "It's registered and notarized under your name." "Who notarized it?" He hesitated. "Vivian Clark." "Of course," I smiled. "Then she notarized her own downfall." Harold blinked. "You're not even angry?" "I'm busy," I said, taking out a pen. "We'll dismantle him with his own paperwork." I pulled out an old file box labeled Marston Archive. Inside were every contract I'd ever signed in 30 years on the force. Promotion letters, property papers, even traffic citations. "Every signature leaves a fingerprint," I said, and he left a smudge. By 7:45 a.m., Captain Carter was in my living room, uniform sharp, expression sharper. "We pulled camera footage from the notary office," he said. "Guess who's in it?" I raised an eyebrow. "Caleb and Vivian?" He nodded. "And a third man, tech consultant. Brought a portable scanner." "Forgery tech," I said. Carter slid me a USB. "Digital evidence, dated, time-stamped." I plugged it in. The footage loaded. Caleb, in his usual arrogance, leaning over the desk. Vivian, nervous. The consultant scanning my signature from an old deed, and Caleb laughing, saying, "She'll never know. She trusts paper more than people." Carter muttered, "We can bring him in today." "Not yet," I said. "Let him think he's still safe. The higher he climbs, the harder the fall. I sent the footage to Harold. Subject line, forgery confirmed. Then I forwarded it to Judge Monroe's clerk. Subject line, urgent evidence, chain of custody enclosed. By 8:30, the storm broke outside. Thunder rolled like applause. I walked to the glass wall of the villa, watching rain streak down. Every drop mirrored my calm. People mistake calm for weakness. It's actually aim. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Marston, a smooth voice said. This is Dean Whitmore, counsel for your son-in-law. My client requests a private meeting to resolve this quietly. Quietly? I repeated. He forged a federal document. Maybe there was confusion, he said. We can settle. He's willing to return certain assets if you withdraw the complaint. Mr. Whitmore, I said, I don't withdraw complaints. I expand them. He sighed. You're making a mistake. Then I'm in good company, I said, and hung up. By noon, the news channels picked up the story. Former police chief's daughter, beaten, husband under fraud investigation, photos of the villa, court filings, my name, his name. I didn't hide. I didn't deny. I let the truth do the talking. At 2:14 p.m., Harold called again. He's panicking. His lawyers filed for an injunction. Denied? Denied, Harold confirmed. Judge Monroe saw the footage. Then he'll see this next, I said, holding up the forged paper. I sent it to the forensic lab. You'll love the report. At 3:02 p.m., Carter returned. Fingerprint analysis came back. He placed the report in front of me. Primary prints, Caleb Whitman, secondary, Vivian Clark, and a partial, his tech consultant. Enough to nail them all. Hannah stepped into the room, pale but steady. Is it true, Mom? He forged your name? Yes, I said. She swallowed. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Because pain makes noise, I said. Justice moves in silence. She nodded slowly. What happens now? Now? I said. Now he learns who he married into. I grabbed my coat. Where are you going? To end it, I said. The courthouse smelled like paper and sweat. Caleb stood at the far end in a suit that cost more than his dignity. He saw me and smirked. You think you've won? I walked up to the table. I don't think. I file. Judge Monroe entered. The room fell silent. Mrs. Marston, she said, you're presenting new evidence? Yes, Your Honor, I said. Exhibit G, the original signature from my records. I placed the sheet beside the forged one. The difference was microscopic until I turned on the forensic lamp. The ink shimmered. 2 different hues, 2 different years. Gasps filled the room. Caleb's lawyer muttered, This can't be. Judge Monroe cut him off. It is. She lifted the report. Forgery confirmed. This court orders immediate asset seizure pending full investigation. Caleb exploded. You set me up. I turned to him, calm. You set yourself up. I just pressed record. He lunged forward, but Carter was already behind him, firm hand on his shoulder. Easy, Carter said. You're already in enough trouble. As they let him out, I said, Next time you forge a woman's name, make sure she doesn't carry a badge. He glared at me, lips trembling. You'll regret this. I don't regret justice, I said. It's the only thing that sleeps well. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Harold walked beside me. It's over. No, I said. It's documented. At home, I filed the papers under final evidence. Hannah was waiting, tea in hand. Did it end? She asked. I nodded. He's behind bars. Vivian confessed fully. His company frozen. She exhaled in relief. You did it, Mom. I smiled faintly. No, the law did. I just reminded it where to look. I looked out at the horizon, the rain drying on the glass. One last document blinked on my screen. Case, Whitman v. Marston, closed. I whispered, You can forge a name. You can't forge a legacy. Then I hit save. By 8:00 a.m., Seabrook Courthouse looked like a storm had gathered in marble. Reporters lined the steps. Cameras flashed like rifles. For the first time, Caleb Whitman wasn't the man in control. He was the headline. I arrived in a navy suit, same color I wore the day I took my police oath. Harold walked beside me carrying a steel briefcase. Inside were the files that would end him. He whispered, "They're already calling it the Marston case." "Good," I said. "Let them spell my name right." Hannah waited near the entrance, trembling but strong. "Do I have to speak?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Truth is the only language this court still understands." The courtroom was cold. Caleb sat with his lawyers, 4 of them, faces pale, voices low. Vivian Clark sat behind him, sunglasses on, guilt written under every breath. When she caught my eye, she looked down. Good. Shame had finally remembered her name. The judge entered. "Court is now in session." The clerk read the charges: forgery, assault, fraud, coercion, defamation. Each word hit him like a hammer. Harold rose. "Your Honor, the prosecution presents Exhibit A through J, verified evidence of systematic deceit." He placed the USB drive on the table. Every screen in the room lit up. Caleb's voice echoed from the recording. "She'll never know. She trusts paper more than people." The room gasped. He went white. I didn't flinch. I'd already memorized every second of that tape. Harold continued, "Exhibit K. Bank transactions showing money transfers from the victim's account to a secondary account under Vivian Clark." Vivian tried to speak, but her lawyer pulled her arm down. Judge Monroe's tone was icy. "Ms. Clark, you will remain silent until addressed." Caleb's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, this evidence was obtained illegally." "No," Harold said, cutting him off. "It was obtained by the victim's legal guardian after a domestic assault. Protected under emergency jurisdiction." Judge Monroe leaned forward. "Objection denied. Continue." Harold turned to me. "Mrs. Marston, please state your name and occupation for the record." "Helen Marston, former chief inspector. Retired, not irrelevant." A few reporters scribbled faster. He smiled faintly. "And what was your relationship to the defendant?" "He was married to my daughter," I said. "Now he's married to his lies." Gasps again. Even the bailiff's eyes flickered. Harold nodded. "Did you authorize any property transfer to Mr. Whitman?" "No," I said. "If I wanted to give him something, I'd have given him a mirror." Laughter rippled. Caleb clenched his jaw. "You're humiliating yourself." I turned to him. "No, Caleb, I'm documenting you." Vivian suddenly stood. "He made me sign those papers. He said you'd ruin us if I didn't." Judge Monroe raised her hand. "Order. Ms. Clark, are you retracting your prior statement?" Vivian's voice cracked. "Yes, I lied. I notarized everything he told me to." Her lawyer collapsed into his chair. Caleb shouted, "You coward!" The judge's gavel slammed. "Enough!" The courtroom fell silent, except for the rain against the windows. Judge Monroe leaned forward. "The evidence is overwhelming. Mr. Whitman, do you wish to speak?" He stood, shaking with rage. "This is a setup. I spoke over him. "Stop talking like a victim. You ran out of those the night you hit my daughter." The crowd went still. The cameras clicked. The world heard it. Harold placed the last exhibit, the forged deed, on the table. Judge Monroe examined both signatures under the lamp. "Forgery confirmed," she said. "Do you have any closing words, Mrs. Marston?" I rose slowly. "Yes, Your Honor." I turned to the reporters. "This is what happens when arrogance meets evidence. He thought I was old, weak, finished. He forgot. I taught half this city how to build a case." Caleb lunged forward. "You destroyed my life." "No," I said. "You just found out what accountability looks like in daylight." The judge struck the gavel. "Court finds the defendant guilty on all counts. Assets frozen. Custody granted to Hannah Marston. Sentence pending review." Flashbulbs exploded. The entire room erupted. Carter stepped forward, cuffs in hand. "Mr. Whitman, you're under arrest." He looked at me, desperate, broken. "You won't win, Helen." "I already did," I said. "It's written in ink." The cuffs clicked. The cameras caught it. That sound, the metallic snap, was Justice closing its file. Vivian covered her face, sobbing. I didn't comfort her. Some lessons need the silence of consequence. Outside the courthouse, the crowd parted. Reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Marston, how does it feel?" I stopped, looked straight into the nearest lens. Justice isn't revenge, I said. It's handwriting that doesn't shake. I walked down the steps. Hannah met me halfway, eyes glassy but alive. "It's over," she whispered. "Almost," I said. "He still has to read the headlines." We reached the car. Rain started again, soft, relentless. Harold smiled. "You know, you could write a book." I looked at the courthouse behind me. No, I already wrote a verdict. I opened the door, paused, and looked back once more. Inside, through the glass, I could see him yelling at his lawyers, face red, hands shaking. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, only the calm that comes when the storm realizes it's over. "Let's go home," I said. As the car pulled away, the courthouse clock struck 12. The bell echoed down the street, 12 chimes, 12 lies undone. And over the hum of the rain, I whispered one last line for the record. He tried to forge my name, but I stamped his fate instead. By the next morning, the courthouse steps were empty, but the headlines were everywhere. Police chief's son-in-law exposed in forgery and assault scandal. Caleb's name was trending, his reputation gone before the sun was even up. Justice had teeth, and the city was finally watching it bite. I stood at the window of my villa, coffee cooling beside me. The sea looked calm, almost pretending nothing had happened. But justice never sleeps. It just changes shape. The phone rang. "Mrs. Marston," Harold's voice said. "You should see this." He forwarded a link. A gossip blog, full of lies. Helen Marston framed her son-in-law to reclaim property. I smiled. He's learning the power of cheap words. Harold sighed. He's paying people to spin the story. There's a smear campaign starting online. "Let it spin," I said. "Every rumor leaves a digital fingerprint." By noon, an envelope arrived at my door. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. "Stay quiet or she disappears." No name, no signature. But I didn't need one. The scent of his arrogance was all over it. I put the letter on my desk, slipped on gloves, and placed it inside a folder marked Threat 01. Then I picked up my phone. "Captain Carter," I said. "Add it to evidence. Fingerprint scan, full trace." He paused. "You think it's him?" "I don't think," I said. "I document." By 3 p.m., the rumor machine went into overdrive. Photos of my daughter leaving the courthouse, headlines twisting her pain into gossip. The crying heiress. People love broken women until they meet one who gets back up. Hannah called, voice shaking. "Mom, they're saying awful things about you online." "I expected that," I said. "They're calling you cold, ruthless." "Good," I said. "That means they're listening." I hung up and opened my laptop. The inbox was filling fast. News requests, talk shows, journalists begging for quotes. I wrote one reply to all. "The truth doesn't scream. It files." Then I hit send. By late afternoon, Harold called again. "He's hired Valdez," he said, "the city's most expensive defense lawyer." I laughed softly. "Let him swim. I own the net." That evening, as the sun bled red across the bay, Carter showed up with results. "The threat letter," he said, placing the report on my table. "Partial print. Matches Caleb's driver." "Perfect," I said. "Now it's evidence, not fear." He nodded. "You don't even flinch anymore." "I retired from fear years ago." The clock ticked 8 p.m. Outside, thunder rolled again, same as that first night. History repeats itself, but smarter women record it this time. I opened the folder marked Case Whitman 003. Evidence photos, audio files, court stamps, all in order. Then I clicked Upload, Cloud backup complete, 1 copy in my archive, 1 in Harold's secure drive, 1 scheduled for automatic release if anything happened to me. He wanted silence. I gave him permanence. The next morning, the TV anchors spoke my words back to the nation. Justice doesn't hide behind doors, it knocks. Public opinion flipped overnight. The same blogs that called me heartless were now calling me fearless. Sponsors dropped his company. Investors froze his accounts. His world crumbled. And I never raised my voice. By afternoon, Vivian Clark's attorney reached out. "She wants to cooperate," he said. "Full confession in exchange for immunity." "Tell her immunity isn't forgiveness," I said, "but it's a start." That evening, I stood again at the same window where it all began. The sea was calm, but the lighthouse flickered, bright and steady. Hannah walked in, holding her tea. "You look peaceful," she said. I smiled faintly. Peace isn't given. It's taken back. On the counter lay the newspaper headline, "Whitman Family Empire Collapses Amid Forgery Case." Right beneath it, my photo. They called me the Iron Widow. I preferred the Evidence Keeper. I poured a final cup of coffee, looked out at the horizon, and whispered, "He thought humiliation was a weapon. He never met discipline." The phone buzzed once more. Harold again. "It's done," he said. "The board just stripped him of every share." I said nothing. Sometimes silence delivers louder justice than applause. Then I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and let the villa fall quiet. Not in defeat, but in completion. The courthouse was full again. Cameras, reporters, a sea of whispers that stopped the moment I stepped inside. This wasn't a trial anymore. It was a reckoning. Caleb sat at the defense table, eyes sunken, suit wrinkled. The arrogance was gone. What replaced it was fear. Raw, human, ugly. Vivian Clark sat beside him, pale and trembling. She'd chosen survival over loyalty, and today that choice would save her soul. The bailiff's voice echoed, "All rise!" Judge Monroe entered, calm as always. "We're here to deliver the final verdict in the state of Georgia versus Caleb Whitman." I took my seat, hands folded, face unreadable. Hannah sat beside me, still healing, still fragile, but alive. That was enough. Harold rose first. "Your Honor, the prosecution presents closing evidence. Recorded confessions, forged signatures, digital transactions, and testimony from Ms. Clark confirming conspiracy and assault." He paused, then looked at Caleb. "Every lie he told has been proven false. Every act of cruelty, documented." Judge Monroe nodded. "The defense?" Caleb's lawyer stood, hands shaking. "My client was under emotional stress. Enough," the judge said flatly. "Save your pity for the mirror." The courtroom went silent. Then she turned to me. "Mrs. Marston, you requested to make a statement." I stood. Every camera lifted. Every pen froze midair. "Yes, Your Honor." I faced Caleb. "You built your life on deceit. You called it strategy. You called it love. But real men don't forge a woman's name or raise a hand to her. They stand on their own name, if they have one." Gasps, murmurs. He looked away. I continued. "You thought I'd stay silent, that my age meant weakness. You mistook discipline for fear. You forgot what silence does. It listens. It records. It strikes when arrogance sleeps." Judge Monroe looked down at her notes. "Mr. Whitman," she said, "you are found guilty on all charges: forgery, fraud, assault, defamation, sentencing 12 years with no parole." Caleb slammed the table. "This is a setup. She trapped me." I stepped forward. "No, you trapped yourself. I just turned on the lights." He shouted again. "You'll regret this, Helen." I met his eyes, calm as glass. "I don't regret justice. Only the years it took to arrive." The gavel struck once, twice, final. Case closed. The room erupted, reporters shouting, flashes firing, but I didn't move. I waited for the sound that always meant closure to me, the click of the handcuffs. There it was. Carter walked him out, head down, wrists bound. Hannah reached for my hand. "Mom, you did it." I shook my head. "No, we did. Every woman who's ever been told to stay quiet did." Vivian stood up, tears streaming. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For yourself or for what you helped him do?" "For all of it," she whispered. I nodded once. "Then start by testifying to the women he's hurt before her." Judge Monroe rose from the bench. "Justice isn't mercy," she said. "It's clarity." When we stepped outside, the storm had passed. The air smelled clean, the kind of clean that only comes after something burns down. Reporters surrounded me. "Mrs. Marston, any comment on the verdict?" I turned to the nearest camera. "Yes," I said. "To every woman watching, don't wait for someone to save you. Record everything, and never mistake silence for surrender." The crowd roared. Flashes burst again, blinding, relentless. That night, the verdict aired across every channel. Caleb Whitman convicted, former police chief leads historic case. The city called it justice, but for me, it was correction, a restoration of balance. At midnight, I sat by the window of my villa, same spot where it all began. The sea was calm again. The lighthouse beam swept across the glass, slow and steady. Hannah brought me a cup of tea. "He's gone," she said softly. "No," I said. "He's documented." We sat together in silence. For the first time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Then she asked, "What now, Mom?" "Now," I said, "we rebuild. Not from pain, but from proof." She smiled, tears catching the light. "You're really not afraid of anyone, are you?" "I am," I said, "of women who stop fighting." She laughed through the tears. "You're impossible." "Exactly," I said. "That's why I survived." The next morning, the papers arrived with a headline that made the city stop for a second. "The woman who turned silence into evidence." I clipped it and placed it in the final folder. Case Whitman closed. One last line typed beneath it. "Justice doesn't erase pain, but it teaches it how to walk tall." Outside, the first light of dawn touched the ocean. The lighthouse blinked once more, fading with the sunrise. For the first time in months, I poured myself a new cup of coffee, opened the door, and let the sea air in, not as a warrior, not as a victim, but as Helen Marston, the woman who ended a legacy of silence with one sentence. I pressed record. Rest. The morning after the verdict, the air felt different, quieter, lighter, as if the ocean itself had exhaled. For the first time in months, my villa wasn't a crime scene, a battlefield, or a fortress. It was just home. I made coffee and stood by the window overlooking Seabrook Bay. The lighthouse beam no longer felt like a warning. It felt like a reminder that justice, when patient, always finds its way home. On the table lay the morning paper. Whitman convicted. Victim's mother delivers chilling courtroom speech. The photo below showed me walking down the courthouse steps, my hand resting on Hannah's shoulder. The caption read, "The woman who ended silence." I didn't smile, not out of pride, but because justice isn't joy. It's balance. A knock at the door. Mrs. Langford stood outside, the same neighbor who had witnessed everything that night. She looked nervous, holding a small tin of cookies. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For believing him. For calling you cold. I was wrong." I opened the door wider. "Cold kept me alive," I said. "Warmth would have gotten me buried." She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "Your daughter's lucky to have you." "She's not lucky," I said. "She's learning." Hannah walked in, hair still damp from the shower, dressed in soft blue, the first color she'd worn since the assault. She smiled faintly at Mrs. Langford. "It's okay. We all believed him once." When the neighbor left, Hannah sat across from me. They offered me an interview, she said. For what? To talk about what happened. The news wants a survivor's story. Do you want to? I asked. She hesitated. I don't know. I don't want pity. Then don't ask for it, I said. Tell the truth. Truth doesn't beg. She looked at me for a long moment. You make everything sound easy. It's not, I said. It's just necessary. By afternoon, Carter stopped by, still in uniform. He handed me an envelope. What's this? I asked. Official confirmation, he said. The Whitman estate is being liquidated. All assets transferred to Hannah. I took the document and nodded. Good. He tried to sign her out of her life. Now the law signs him out of it. Carter smiled faintly. You know, the department's still talking about what you did. I didn't do anything extraordinary, I said. I just did what we taught men to do for years. Follow the evidence. He laughed. Still, I've never seen anyone turn a courtroom into a firing range. I aimed at the truth, I said. It rarely misses. After he left, I sat on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the sea in gold and ash. Hannah joined me with 2 cups of tea. You ever think about leaving this place? She asked. No, I said. Every scar this house carries tells a story we survived. Why would I leave that? She smiled. You really are impossible. And you're finally free, I said. The waves rolled in, slow and steady. We didn't need music. The silence was enough. Later that night, I opened my laptop one last time. Folder. Case Whitman 03, closed. Subfolder, Legacy. Inside, I added one document. Letter to Hannah. I began to type. Hannah. There will come a day when someone underestimates you the way he did me. When that happens, don't scream. Don't beg. Just remember who you are. The daughter of a woman who turned pain into proof. Never confuse silence with weakness. It's a weapon. Use it wisely. Love, Mom. I saved the file, encrypted it, and closed the lid. It felt final. Not like an ending, but a seal. At dawn, I took my badge from the drawer. The same one I wore the night I arrested my first criminal. The same one I wore when I picked my daughter off the ground, blood on her face. I placed it on the table beside the final newspaper. Then I poured one last cup of coffee, sat on the porch, and watched the sun rise over Seabrook Bay. The light fell across the villa windows, the same glass that once reflected my daughter's pain. Now it only reflected calm. Hannah stepped outside, smiling. You're up early. Old habits, I said. She sat beside me. You think people will remember all this? They'll remember what they choose, I said. I just made sure the record won't forget. The sea breeze lifted the edge of the newspaper, revealing the headline beneath. Helen Marston, the woman who filed her revenge. I picked it up, folded it neatly, and tucked it into my drawer of closed cases. No more courtrooms, no more fights. Just peace. Earned, documented, undeniable. As the morning light filled the house, Hannah reached for my hand. You think justice makes you happy? She asked. No, I said. It makes me quiet, and quiet is happiness enough. The lighthouse blinked one last time in the distance, its beam fading with the sun. I whispered to myself, justice doesn't die when the case closes. It lives in the women who refuse to forget. And with that, I closed the door, left the file on the desk, and let the silence settle, not as an ending, but as a legacy, the end.